Welcome to another episode of Ego on Break. This time I've got
Not Logan Creed.
not Logan Creed, but
The Juggernaut Joey Abel.
the Juggernaut, former Renegade, and I'm your host Jay Andrews. So we got a big show coming up. You've got Dark Fury, January the 7th in the ladder match. You want to tell the world your plan, or you want to keep that secret?
We'll keep it under wraps. We'll keep this kid friendly.
Yeah.
You don't really want to know my thoughts on Dark Fury.
So I think your plan's to win. Is that correct?
To be the how many Pride champions of the Pro Wrestling League Pride champions?
It's only been a few, so be number
To
6,
be the
maybe
next,
7.
yes.
So what do you say? Let's talk about Mississippi wrestling. Not just Ego, but all the way back to Mid-South or whatever's before that. What do you think?
I'm down. I'm not as well versed in Mid South as you guys, but I can give it a shot. Yeah, I come up with WCW was my stuff, and when I got into wrestling, I had to go back and kind of find all that other stuff like Mid South.
I got you. Well, I did the same thing. So. I think my earliest memory of actual Mississippi wrestling was, I want to say maybe it was like the new Mid-South or something like that, and it had, I remember Disco Inferno being the kind of the star of the show, and of course it was simply because of Disco, so I think that was the reason I remembered as much. But getting into it and digging deeper and deeper, I've discovered Gulf Coast Championship Wrestling or whatever that was called, with like Bob Kelly and the Assassin and the Mass Medic and the Blue Yankee and just all those kind of guys. And then you had Mid-South, with Bill Watts and Ted DiBiase and Junkyard Dog and those kind of guys. So
growing up, I watched them with my dad all the time. We had this channel called Total Request. We lived in McGee, Mississippi. And so we watched WCW. It was NWA when I first started watching, and then it grew into WCW. And so that's all I knew. But then when I get a little older and I finally get into wrestling, and I start talking about, I watched some Mid-South, or I watched this, and then all of a sudden my dad was an expert on all this, and I'm like, why did I learn about all this?
Yeah, I got you. Myself, I know I don't know a whole bunch. I know I can, as I'm putting out flyers and I'm talking to people, telling them about wrestling, about Pro Wrestling Ego, I always get that. I used to watch Mid-South, or I used to watch, every Wednesday night at the Coliseum, they would tell us. And so I got to digging up about it. Kind of, just, it's not a lot out there. You have to really dig deep and try to, the little bit of information you do find is basically word of mouth or somebody telling a story or something like that.
Well, and then you got WWE's got a stronghold on all the libraries now. So
that's true. So it's hard to find it.
Yeah, they put a little bit up every now and then on the network.
Yeah, I know there was a company that I think they were actually promoting it for Mid-South, and then they broke away from Mid-South, but it was called Culkin Promotions. And they ran Jackson, Greenville, Tupelo. I'm not sure if they went down south or if Jackson was kind of their strong, from Jackson up or whatever. But I know it's Frankie Kane. I think he was the great Mempho or something like that.
Ken Joe Kane?
It's possible.
Oh, okay.
It's possible. Maybe Joe's grandpa or something. But they were running, and that's where you saw Sugar Bear Harris, who became Kamala. You also saw a young Terry Gordy.
Bam.
As he was the Mississippi heavyweight champion at 16.
Well, him and
Michael
Hayes started tagging
in Mississippi.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So that's kind of that cool side of that you find, that these guys went on to be something more than just kind of local wrestlers. So
I guess as far back as and it's probably bad. It makes me look ignorant. I guess is. When I finally found out what independent wrestling was, working at Walmart, I meet a guy, and then he takes me to this firehouse in Waynesboro, Mississippi, and these guys got a wrestling ring set up. So I'm like, I have no clue what independent wrestling was at the time.
Absolutely.
Start training, and So then I dive into what is Battle Zone,
NWA
Battle Zone at the time, and start tracing the lineage of that back. And as much as it catches flack and stuff for being in the building it was in, or who promoted it, or
Right.
whatever, the NWA Battle Zone had a good lineage and a good run in
Oh
Mississippi.
man, yeah. Like I know when I first started going there, of course I was sitting in the crowd, and if I'm not mistaken, it was Blade Boudreaux. He had actually took the NWA Mississippi title to the ECW arena in Philadelphia and defended it.
See, I've heard that, and then Big Don Brody
Yep.
hit. Was it
Max Payne?
Was it Max Payne? Kamala? Somebody hit him over the head with a
dent in the
belt. I actually had that belt for the longest time.
Yeah.
So it had a good lineage, and then Brother Love won the NWA Junior Heavyweight title in McGee, Mississippi from oh my goodness,
Jimmy Rave.
Jimmy Rave.
I remember that. I remember Jimmy came out. He had like these black pleather pants on with a big X on the side, and I was thinking like, what? Like I don't know what had happened with the music. If it was, maybe his music didn't play or whatever, but he like came out to like some rock, and I'm like, why doesn't he come out to like techno or party, house music or whatever? So
were they toilet paper and rave at the time?
No, this was before that. This might have been, he might have did this to go to Ring of Honor.
So
that may have been.
That would have been rave like Wildside time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Jimmy Ray from NWA Wildside, and I remember seeing Kevin Northcutt, John Saxon, Joey C. They were called the New Orleans Fight Club. You had, which Northcutt went on to be in TNA with the Red Shirt Security, the Joey Legend, and the big tall guy. I can't remember his name.
Did Northcutt hold
Ryan
TNA or the NWA tag belts in TNA?
I don't think he held. Him and Joey Legend may have as Red Shirt Security. They may have been tag champions. Luke Hawks. I remember seeing Luke Hawks in the Altar Boy gimmick. There at NWA Battle Zone.
Some more of my ignorance. When I found out who Luke Hawks and guys like that were, I was in Iraq in 2009. Now, I'd already been wrestling and been training forever. And like I said, my ignorance to what independent wrestling was. There was an NWA DVD 2-pack that they were selling in the PX in Iraq that I bought. Why they had it in Iraq, I have no clue. And it had like throwback to like Wildside stuff with AJ Styles, with Luke Hawks when he was Altar Boy Luke. So that's how I found out who all those guys were. Was through that DVD that I found in Iraq in 2000.
You still have that DVD?
Maybe not.
That'd be awesome. So what's your earliest memory of seeing wrestling in Mississippi?
That would have been it. Other than watching it at home, I met this guy, Brian Rival. He took me to this firehouse, and they were training in there, and they had no formal training, so that would have been my first show actually going to, and I actually didn't go to a show until I was already started bumping and training, and then all of a sudden I'm the referee and I'm doing security for Brian Rival.
For the Brian Rival show.
For the Brian Rival show. So I trained like 2 or 3 times bumping. All of a sudden Rival's ready for his first match. I'm his security. We beat up Steve O'Malley, which was Sensational Steve Sensation at the time.
That's a great name.
And it was his first match also. And I was refereeing, and then I turned on O'Malley, and then all of a sudden I was in the business. So it was probably not the proper way to get in the business at all. But some of the best guys in the last 15 years come out, I say best guys, in my opinion, in Mississippi, come out of that firehouse. I mean, Barry Wolf, Nick Wonder, who doesn't wrestle anymore, but was phenomenal.
Super good. Super good.
Miracle Mikey Webb was amazing.
Did Lucas Frost come out? No, Lucas Frost came out of SWA.
SWA in Hattiesburg. Then you had Rival, who was phenomenal on the microphone. He looked great, old school, look. He was a great heel. O'Malley's a great worker. Right. I guess I credit myself coming out of there, whether you like me or not. I think I'm a decent worker. So there's been great guys come out of that firehouse.
And that was where?
In Buckatunna, like
Buckatunna.
10 minutes south of Waynesboro in the firehouse. There's like 2 little gas stations there.
Who was the Buckatunna heavyweight champion?
Oh my goodness.
Isn't that great? Buckatunna.
That was I don't even know who the champion was. There was a cop that was from Buckatunna. I cannot remember his name right now. That wrestled. I want to say maybe he was the champ. Then you had two brothers that wrestled there. I know their shoot names is Brad and Steven Holyfield. You know what I'm talking about? I can't remember their work names. Then you had guys like Craze that were training there. The black guy, big black guy. And then, what's his name? Little guy. The Kane gimmick guy. I can't think of his name. Seville. Rob Anarchy was there. Guys like that.
See, I thought all those guys came like out from under Havard down in SWA. Matt Havard.
I want to say after they shut down at the firehouse. I was in Iraq when they shut down the firehouse in 2005. They may have went there afterwards. So
that's where I met those guys.
Well, that's why I run back into them. Was at Laurel for Matthew Havard.
So I think the first memory I have actually was in McGee. Like, and this was not Battlezone. This was before Battlezone, but it was at the McGee Armory. And I don't know the company, and I don't even know like any of those guys, but it had Junkyard Dog there, and that's the reason we had heard about it. And then I remember there was these two big fat guys, and they were like the Pink Flamingos or something like that, but they could work. Or I was 14, you know, so I mean, I say they could work. They were very entertaining.
Yeah.
And that's really the only memory I have of those matches there, and it was just one show. It was like they just dropped by, you know. And like I said, it had JYD on it, and then it had flamingos. You know, I mean, I know it's crazy, but those guys stuck out. You know, it's crazy how they could have had some of the best wrestling talent around, and I don't remember it. But the Pink Flamingos, like I just remember those two guys,
big guys in pink, always stick out.
I think so. But like they were good. You know what I mean? Like they caught my attention. They were entertaining, and then I heard about, and this was several years later, somebody's like, oh, you know, we got this battle zone in McGee. And, like, I don't even know if anybody even knew what it was unless you were kind of going. But, like, I had drove by it several times. I always thought it was laser tag. I mean, you know, or paintball or something. You know, it's an old building, battles on flames on the roof and stuff. So I'm like, independent wrestling never crossed my mind. You know, I didn't know it was such thing. And I remember the first time I went in, and it was like, I had arrived, you know what I mean? It's like, this is the coolest thing ever, you know. Guardrails and the ring and the lights, and even though it was the rattiest building ever, but man, like the action was so good. I'd go like take stuff to the pawn shop to make sure I could go that, you know.
When you started going, was it white wall battles on, or it already had the flames?
It had the flames. Yeah, it had the flames, had the guardrails, but I had seen some videos where it didn't even have guardrails, you know. But it had guys like Rooftop and the Southern Executioner and Southern Comfort and Armageddon. I think Armageddon may have been a little later. I think he was working security. He and Rondell Roosevelt were working security. Guy that's normally sitting next to me, Logan Creed, he was working security. But Northcutt Joey C, Brother Love, Lord Humongous, number 19 or whatever, he was there.
Was Malik there?
AC, he was AC Brown.
Brown.
He was. That was like his rookie year. Minotaur, Cornbread. I mean, it was a hodgepodge of wrestlers, but you know, it's like I might as well have been at Madison Square Garden. I mean, it was the greatest stuff I'd ever seen. And then Faroh of Phunk. Out comes Faroh of Phunk, and I'm like, I'm the biggest Faroh fan ever. You know, I'm like, this guy's my size. I can, you know, if this dude can get out there, I can do this. So, I mean, I became like Funky Jr., you know, it's crazy. I probably smelt I hung around him so bad, you know, so much.
When we get done talking about memories, I want to go back to Faroh in a minute. But it was kind of like that. You know, I started training or whatever you want to call it, and then ended up going to Iraq in 2005. And then when I got back, I heard word that Nick Wonder, the guy that showed me how to bump initially, was going to be at Battlezone. And I'm kind of like you. I drove by there, so once I started training with Nick and them, I realized what Battlezone was.
Right.
But never had a chance to stop in. So I go to see Nick Wonder at Battlezone that night, and I probably looked the biggest mark ever, and Nick probably did too, because we hadn't saw each other in like a year. When he comes out the curtain, I stand up at the guardrail. I'm like, oh, and he just stops mid stride, and we give each other a hug right there.
You didn't die.
Yeah, and he's like, it's awesome. You're back from Iraq and whatever. So he calls me around back because I'm smart to the business, and I meet Jesse Dalton. He's like, "Man, you wanna train? These guys will train you." And that was it. But when I went, it was Rooftop was there, Armageddon, like you talked about, and them two guys were phenomenal.
Yeah.
AC was there.
AC's probably the best guy that came out of Mississippi. That actually is still wrestling.
AC's great, yeah. And then you had, which was New Blood, whatever he went by. Young Blood was Rondell Roosevelt's first.
Was it Young Blood or Young Bleed?
It was Young Bleed, yeah. And Faroh was doing the pimp hat in his jacket, Southern Executioner. Well, actually, he had already lost the mask at that time, so it was Jesse Dalton. Psycho was still in the mask.
Chasing Hershey bars. And
then I remember Calvin Rose worked, I want to say it was Lord Humongous, but the match before that was Monty Warbucks and I believe Minotaur. It was those two working. I'm not sure the order of the two matches went in. But the semi-main match broke the top rope in the match. And they didn't bother fixing it. So it was Humongous and Calvin come out in the main, and it was a street fight or something. And they beat the mess out of each other without the top rope, and I thought, this is awesome. These big guys with no top rope. As much as Lord Humongous or Gary Nation hates me or whatever.
He hates everybody.
But that was one of my first Mississippi wrestling moments, and they're wrestling out the top rope. I'm like, oh, this is great stuff ever.
Yeah, it was awesome, and like I can remember like trying to like peek through the cracks in the wall and stuff. They would do interviews after the show. That they were running TV at the time, and they would be in there cutting even. I'd be trying to sneak a peek, to try to see what guys look like, that kind of thing. So total mark,
To take it from that, I think Danny McClain, who started Battle Zone, him and Brother Love. From my recollection, what they started as was they were getting film from all over different companies.
All right, it wasn't Brother Love. It was Danny and another guy. And I can't remember the guy's name, but they had South's greatest wrestling fans. Yes. And they would ask you to send it in. They'd have matches from around the country. Whoever would send it in or whatever they could find. They even had like backyard wrestling. Yeah. But the way I understood it was Danny and Bob Serio were partners, and basically like an NWA Mississippi type thing. Or maybe it wasn't even NWA. I'm not 100% sure. But I know Serio started NWA New South, and Danny was supposed to be starting NWA Mississippi. All right. And the name of the arena was actually The Battle Zone. So the way I understood it, it was never intended to be NWA Battle Zone. Yeah. It was just the fans go, oh, we're going to see the Battle Zone. So it just became... like the name of the promotion was basically named by the fans based on the building. Yeah. So I always thought that was kind of cool.
And it basically started out as Tape Trader.
Yeah, absolutely.
And turned into a promotion.
Absolutely. So I can remember they would have those tapes, in the lockers in the back.
Yes.
And I'd get some of those tapes, and Danny would let you take them home, watch them or whatever. And they would like interviewing this kid on one, like this girl, oh, I'm the biggest fan, blah, blah, blah. And they come to find out, like, the guy that was doing the interview that was in the kind of the partnership with Danny, it was his daughter they were interviewing, but they set it up like somebody had won a sweepstakes or something. I get you. But it was super cool, but Mississippi has a long history of wrestling, and that's what I don't think people understand is like it's been here forever, I
mean, just the caliber of talent that's come out of Mississippi, and it really does get the recognition that it deserves, from a JYD and a Ted DiBiase senior.
Freebirds, Kamala. I mean, all those guys came from Ted didn't come from Mississippi, but you could say Ted Jr. came from Mississippi. Yeah. Brett DiBiase came from Mississippi.
I still owe you, Ted Jr.
Yeah. There's actually a girl, Christy Reese, maybe. And I don't think she's ever really wrestled around here. I know I've seen her in like Mexico and California, that kind of place. But she came out of Mississippi as well. She actually went to church with the DiBiases. And I don't know how she got trained or what she did with them, but I know like they kind of inspired her to be, to get into the business.
Well, you go back to JYD, who arguably would have been Hulk Hogan if Hulk Hogan wasn't there.
He was the Hulk Hogan of Mid-South.
Well, I mean, even in WWE, they say his popularity was second only
high,
to
right.
Hogan.
Okay, I got where you're going.
So I mean, just charismatic.
Right.
Even Ted Senior, one of the most true, pure, just heel, just the gimmick, everything. Like, oh, I hate this arrogant dude, but it was so good, man. I mean, and he was with WWE forever. I mean, we say WWE because obviously WWE is the
it's
where
the top place,
the be all end all. But to have a run that he had in WWE,
like to
great.
be the head guy. Like, I mean, he was behind Piper. He was probably the head, villain.
Yeah. And then you plug in guys like a King Kong Bundy or a Big Boss Man or something here and there. But oh man, Ted Senior's great. Even a few weeks ago, him in the locker room just sitting down chit chatting with the guys was so amazing.
We a lot of times we'll end it with road stories and then maybe like one to watch. I know you mentioned Faroh, so let's highlight the Faroh of Phunk. Why should people want to watch the Faroh of Phunk?
Wrestling is controversy and emotion and a getaway. To me. So you want to get away from your weekly struggles, you go to watch a wrestling show. That you want to see controversy and fighting and the storyline and charisma, and the Faroh of Phunk minus maybe the getaway, because I don't want to get away with Faroh of Phunk. But
it's a way to forget what you did throughout the week.
Exactly. Heel or face, he is one of the most charismatic guys I've ever been in a locker room with. That, especially as a good guy, as a face, he doesn't look like nothing. You may not like the way he looks, his gear, he's fat, he's bald, and whatever. But when he comes through the curtain, even women, and you can say, oh, ain't no women get behind him. Women and children, he's John Cena. They eat him up.
I'll tell you what I think. And this is me, and like when I was a fan of the Faroh of Phunk, it wasn't the tassels and it was jeans, t-shirt, having hardcore matches, that kind of thing. But he was like, oh, that could be my neighbor, or that's my brother-in-law, or he pumped my gas, or he was just that dude that could have been anybody's neighbor or anybody's family. You know what I mean? So just that, and they say he's got it. I don't know what it is, but he's got it.
He's got it. You can tell when the music hits.
So love him. Like, we have a love-hate relationship, but I give the guy his due. I mean, I've got a Faroh of Phunk #1 fan award at my house. I mean, I can't bash him too bad, but
well, the newer guys understand, and I know me and you, we bat for him a lot. We're just talking to the newer guys, but he looks like crap. But
he does, and he'll probably tell you I look like crap.
And half the WWE locker room, I know it's a a double standard, but half the WWE locker room's in jeans and shirts now, whatever. But I don't know, man. He captivates me, and I'm a worker.
He could be Dean Ambrose.
Oh yeah, definitely.
He's
Dean
the
Ambrose.
Mississippi Dean Ambrose,
and even Dean's going bald, so it fits perfectly.
Let's wrap this up with a road story. You got a good road story?
Man, I had a bunch of good road stories. What we doing one apiece? We're just doing one.
We'll do one. We're running a little long, so we'll just let you do one.
So there was this tag team that started called the Fanatics, and we start up and get a booking in Alabama. Neither one of us ever been to Alabama. I've been to Alabama once. My partner over here, the other Fanatic, hasn't been to Alabama. So we go to Alabama, and we're working this. Was that an armory? Was it a show for the troops or something like that? It
was like a tornado that came through, and they were raising funds for the tornado.
So we're in this Four Corners tag match. And before we go out there, we've never tagged before.
Yeah.
And they're already putting us over the moon with all their established teams. But we're in the locker room, and there's this kid there. I can't remember his name. And this kid...
I wish I could remember his name, because I don't remember.
I can't remember his name either. He was in the match with us. We're tagging with...
Ugly Kid Joe.
Yeah. And he's got the little piercing in his chest there. And there's this... He's an Alabama veteran. I really don't know how far his lineage is or wherever it goes back, but there's this guy...
Huge guy, like the Undertaker of Alabama.
Named Death Row. I mean, a lot of you probably know who Death Row is. He's been around for a while. He's 6'6", 7, 8, however big, 300 pounds, big dude. The coolest guy ever.
Yeah, absolutely.
He goes up to the kid. Kid's probably been working a year or two. He's like, hey, I would take that piercing out before I go out there, because we're doing a battle royal at the end of the night. And the kid kind of shrugged him off like, no, I'm not taking
He
my picture.
disrespected him. He
It
was
was
like,
disrespectful.
blah, 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 you know.
So Death Row was like, okay. We go have the tag match. We get back and get ready for the Battle Royal. We go out and they got this rock band playing. It's like the coolest experience. There was a good crowd, a couple hundred people. And we're in the match. Bam, bam, bam. We're going. Me and you're in the corner working on this guy. And all of a sudden, it sounded like a shotgun.
Yeah, I thought somebody was shooting at us.
Like, yeah. We was like, what in the world is going on? And we turn around, and Death Row's got this poor kid bowed up in the corner, and he is open palming him in the chest as hard as he can in that piercing. Yeah. And I think we both eliminated ourselves.
Yeah.
He's like, it's time to get out of the ring.
So to end this, we'll just say, hey, if a veteran tells you to do something, don't be stupid. See you next time, January 7th, The Hideaway, January 28th, Hattiesburg,
The End of Fury.
Brewskis.
January 7th, End of Fury.
End of Fury. We'll see. Later.